Hey there guys, and welcome to this tutorial. We're going to show you how to get N-Gage Games working on your PC. As you can see, this is an N-Gage game running on my PC through an emulator called EKA2L1. It's running pretty smoothly, which is fantastic, and in this tutorial we're going to show you how to get this game and quite a lot of other games working on the system. Games such as The Elder Scrolls, Tony Hawk's, Rayman 3, and a few others. There's quite a few exclusives for the N-Gage that have not been released on any other systems, such as The Elder Scrolls. So I would highly suggest checking these out using this emulator. And that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to get into how to play these games on your PC. First of all, you're going to need a couple of different things. To start off, you're going to 100% need WinRAR. So go to win-rar.com, download WinRAR, and then you go to download WinRAR down here. And you don't need to enter anything. The download should start automatically. Once it's started, run that, install that. It'll say, oh, this is a free, you want to buy it? Don't worry. No, nobody buys WinRAR. It's basically an unlimited trial free software that you don't need to worry about. But WinRAR is very useful for this project. Second of all, you're going to need a copy of the emulator. Now, it's not a strictly N-Gage emulator. It's actually a Symbian OS emulator. It's designed to run various versions of Symbian, but most importantly, it plays N-Gage games. And you can find that at GitHub. The link is in the description. When you get to GitHub, I want you to scroll down here. So you get to the releases section. And then once you're there, click on the releases section. And you can download your version here. There is versions for Android, Mac, Ubuntu, and Windows. We are going to be doing the Windows one, so click on that to download it. The download should start automatically, so just keep a hold of that zip for now. We don't need to worry about where to put that or what to do with it just yet. Next up, you're going to need some N-Gage firmware. Now, this is slightly difficult to get a hold of, but thankfully the folks over at Internet Archive are amazing at archival stuff. So again, the link is in the description for the Symbian OS ROMs. Now, this is every single Symbian OS ROM, unfortunately. It's got a lot of them. So you're going to need to, it's quite a big file, so this might take a little while. So you can either download it as a zip file, so it's just under 440 megabytes there, or you can use a torrenting software to get that. I just use the zip file. It takes a little longer, about half an hour to download, but once you've got that, save that somewhere and sit on it for a little while. Now, the most important thing, you're going to need some games to play. I do not promote the use of illegal ROMs, with the N-Gage being so hard to find games for these days. It's unsurprising that getting games for this is kind of difficult, but you can actually dump games from retail copies. The games are in MMCs, which are micro memory cards. They can be inserted into an SD card reader and read from, and you can rip the game from there. Or, again, the guys over on Internet Archive have a full ROM set of N-Gage games, which the link is also in the description, but this is it here. You can download it as a full RAR, which is just under 900 megabytes, or again as a torrent, and you can use your torrenting software of your choice to download these. Unfortunately, looking at both of these, the RAR is basically all of these RAR files condensed into one RAR, and the torrent is also a RAR file with all of these RAR files condensed into one RAR, so you can't just pick and choose individual games. You have to download the whole pack, unfortunately. Now, these are cracked versions of the games. Now, that means it can basically run without paying for them, which is essentially piracy. Again, I do not promote the use of piracy, but the reason that we need cracked versions of this software is that if you want to install them on this emulator, most of the time only cracked versions will work, with a few exceptions, that being the Elder Scrolls Shadow Key here. That'll work fine, and I think Tomb Raider also works fine without being cracked as well. Okay, so now that you have all of those files, organize them neatly on your desktop. So we have the emulator, that's your emulator there. You have your N-Gage games here, that's fine, and you have your Symbian ROMs. If you open these up, you'll get a buy me. You can just ignore the buy me, close that down, that's fine. You've got this ROM file here. The only one we really need to worry about is this N-Gage one right here. So I'd say drag that onto your desktop right there. So you've got the N-Gage one right there, that's fine. Okay, now we've got the emulator, which is, we're using the Windows version. So we open this up. We'll create a folder on the desktop, and we're going to call that N-Gage for now. And we'll just take all of these files and we'll drag them into the N-Gage folder right here. We don't need to worry about this anymore, but I would suggest keeping a hold of this just in case your emulator stops working. This is a very good backup just in case. We're just going to move that away because we don't need that anymore. And we also don't need the Symbiote OS ROMs anymore. So now we've got these two folders here. We're going to rename N-Gage to N-Gage OS. This is the folder that was containing the ROM set for the N-Gage. And this folder here is the emulator. Now that we've got the emulator folder open, you've got this thing here called EKA2L1.exe. Real simple, all you got to do is double click on this. A bunch of stuff will load. And it says here you have not installed any device. Please install a device or follow the installation instructions on the EKA2L1's GitHub wiki page. So here we're going to click on install device. And it says, welcome to the install device wizard. So we just hit continue. Now here's the important parts. This is really straightforward. What you got to do is you got to go to this little drop down bar here and click on raw dump. So you click on this arrow here and you click on raw dump. And it's please specify raw Z drive dump folder. Now this part is real simple. You go to change and then you browse to your desktop. And on your desktop, you have these folders. Now, we're worried mostly about the N-Gage OS folder currently. So for this one, you want to go to N-Gage OS, data. Then you want to go to drives, Z, RH4. And then while we're in the RH4 folder, you just want to leave it here and hit select folder. And now in the please specify the ROM file, you hit change. And then on this bar back here, you go right back to your N-Gage OS folder and you go to data, ROMs, RH4, and then the sym.rom is what you're looking for there. You hit open. Now, if you notice here, there's a scroll bar. That's pretty cool. So you can see there's a continue button down there. You can actually use this little arrow thing down here to extend this out. I would just extend this out for future use. Hit the continue button. It's going to start copying the raw dump and copying the ROM. Once that's completed, hit the continue button. Thank you for using the wizard. We hope you have a good time using the emulator. Any problems, please report it to the developers by opening issues. Just hit OK to this. And at the moment, you're kind of left like this. Now, just ignore these errors here. We're gonna bypass these in just a moment. Now, before you do anything else, what you have to do is close the emulator. This kind of finalizes everything that you've just done and creates some new stuff here. So we're going to open the emulator up again. And here's another step that we have to take. So we go to File, Launch Apps. Now this little thing is just popped up here. Now this is actually another window. If it's appeared behind this, just move this down and you can see it behind it. And again, you got to click and drag this arrow over and you can see that there's a whole list of apps here. Now here's the thing, it doesn't really matter what you use to start this emulator to begin with. Pick any one of these random apps to start with. I'm going to choose this very top one here, N-Gage PRF. I'm going to click on that. It's going to immediately crash. And then it's going to be status not running, and there's nothing I can do. This whole thing is completely crashed. So what you got to do is close out of the emulator. Now what that has done, if we go into the data folder and the drives, that's actually created a bunch of drives in here that weren't here before. Where we want to install the games is actually on the E drive. So for this demonstration, we're going to use the N-Gage Cracked Games collection from the Internet Archive just to demonstrate how this works. So go ahead and open up that. Ignore the Buy It Now button. Then you click on the actual folder with the N-Gage Games in here. You scroll to the one we want. In this example, we're actually going to use the Elder Scrolls Travels Shadow Key, which was an N-Gage exclusive. To make things easier, we're actually going to take this RAR out of this folder here and we're going to put it on the desktop. This basically means that if we close this down, it's not going to be gone from our temporary folder. So we double click on the Elder Scrolls Travels Shadow Key right up here. And in this folder here, it says System. So let's go back. So the Elder Scrolls Travels Shadow Key, you double click on that and it says System. Now let's go back to our drives folder inside the emulator folder and we go to E. Now this also has a folder called System. So what we want to do is we want to take this folder and copy it into here. And it's going to process that. That's fine. So occasionally this sort of error will pop up when you're installing multiple games. And it says the destination has 1,935 files. It'll never be that much. It'll be like 1 or 2 files. And you can either replace these files in the destination or skip these files. When that happens, one of your games might break. I tend to hit the replace the files in the destination because it tends to be a licensing thing. But because these games are cracked, you don't really need to worry about that too much. Okay, now that those files are in your system folder, you can go ahead and close this Elder Scrolls Travel Shadow Key RAR file. And if you want to, you can actually just go ahead and delete that from your desktop because you no longer need that. Also, these N-Gage OS files, these are no longer needed, so you can go ahead and delete them or put them in the same place that you put the emulator RAR file. We're going to go back to the N-Gage emulator folder, which you can either go to by pressing the back arrow, or we can close this down and then reopen this folder here. Now that this is open, you want to click on the emulator itself, which is the EKA2L1.exe. And then you want to go to File, Launch App. And then you're going to have to scroll pretty much most of the way down for any installed game. There it is there, Elder Scrolls. You click on that once, and it loads up this screen here. You can see it's loading a whole bunch of stuff over here. And the game has actually started. So you can actually make this window bigger quite easily by dragging the corner down. In order to control the game, you're going to need to map keys. So you go to File, Preferences, and again, you're going to need to drag this thing down again because it defaults to the smallest. You go to Control, and these are your current controls right now. So I'm actually going to bind these to W, A, S, and D because that's kind of what I prefer. I'm also going to rebind these to negative and plus because that's how I like playing these games. And then everything else is set to your numpad and stuff. You can actually set these to a controller if you want to, but seeing as the N-Gage had a whole bunch of face buttons that controllers don't tend to have, there's really no point in that at all. Okay, so here we can select games, go to options, and just start the game, which is great. So the game just works. I'll show you some in-game stuff. Okay, so here we are. We are currently in-game. You see it's running pretty dang well for an N-Gage game, which is hella surprising. We're getting a decent frame rate. Now, this is actually running faster than it would on an actual N-Gage. It's because there's no CPU caps or anything on the system itself because you're running it on an emulator. So this is it. We're running this game. Now, you might actually find that you have some problems with some other games being in different formats. Now, we're going to talk about that format right now. Okay, so we're going to stop this emulation for now. We're going to go to Debugger, and we're going to go to Restart. And we need to close this for now. So hit the close button. Wait for that to close down. And now this is where the interesting stuff happens, because now we need to install a BLZ installer. Say, for example, you get a game that's in a BLZ format. So I can show you one right here in the N-Gage Games collection. If we scroll all the way down to Tomb Raider, Tomb Raider is in a .blz. Now, it says it opens in WinRAR. It does not open in WinRAR. I don't know why it's decided to do that. Don't try and open it in WinRAR. You can only get yourself some problems. So move that onto your desktop so you have a Tomb Raider.blz. So then reopen the N-Gage Cracked Games collection. And in here, in amongst all these games, there's BLZ Insta App plus extras. Click on the BLZ Insta App, and then you'll see this BLZ Insta App.sys. Click on that and drag that out. So now we've got this .sys file. Now, the .sys files was what was used to install applications on your N-Gage at the time. Now that that's on your desktop, you want to open up the emulator. Once the emulator is open, go to File, Packages, Install. And while you're in Packages and Install, go to your desktop. Click on the BLZ Insta App.sys, hit open. It says installation done, hit yes. Okay, now close down the emulator. Go to Data, Drives, E, and then in the root of your E folder, put the BLZ file that you wish to install. So in this case, we're using Tomb Raider.blz. Go back to the emulator, so relaunch the emulator. Now this is where it gets a little buggy, and the app is kind of showing, the emulator is kind of showing its very buggy state right now. So you click on Launch App, and right here at the top is BLZ Insta App. Click on that, and you'll be met with this sort of screen. Now, it's a bit of a pixelated mess because it's actually supposed to be running in the OS with the OS's file browser, but we don't have that open right now. We're literally just using some unimplemented graphics context, opcode, all that stuff. So it's real simple. All you got to do is press the options button. Now that'll be assigned to whatever you set the function buttons to. So control, it'll either be key F2 or key F1 to hit the options button. So in my case, key F1 is plus and key F2 is minus. So I'm just going to quickly do that now. So let's hit plus to open up the options. We've got two options here. We've got install and exit. So we want to click on install. There's no cursor, so you just need to kind of guess. Click on install with the select button again, and that'll install the app. That beep means that it's successfully installed, hopefully, which then we can go ahead and close out of the emulator, load the emulator back up one last time, go to File, Launch App, scroll all the way down to your game. In this case, it's Tomb Raider. There is no icon because it was in BLZ install. Click on that. And now the game is running. Again, you may need to configure your keys if you didn't save them before. But as you can see, the game is running perfectly well. So we go to new game, go to the caves, we'll skip all the cutscenes. And this is it. And that's how you emulate N-Gage on a PC. I want to say a massive thank you to the guys who developed this emulator. It's been in development for a very long time. I have been trying to follow other emulator developers, but this is the best and furthest progressed emulator I've seen so far, which offers pretty much full playability of N-Gage games, which is pretty damn cool. I've actually played this version of Tomb Raider so much that it's a kind of muscle memory for me to play it from the N-Gage, and I'm playing it on a keyboard right now, and it just feels very, very fluid and smooth and pretty accurate to what it's supposed to do. The best thing about it is you can actually play the games in full screen. So if you want to hit the full screen button, you can. It's very simple to get to. You go to view and full screen. I prefer to play in the Windows mode, because it means I've got access to other things as well. But yeah, that's it. That's how you emulate games. Because this emulator is in development still, it's not going to be compatible with 100% of the games, but I hope that this gets you started, and I hope that the development continues on this emulator. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. This has been how to get N-Gage games working on your PC. Cheers.